Alrighty. Trial Part 1. 20th of February, 9:23 a.m. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Well, never would have expected this. Who'd have thought we'd be back here again so soon? We are on a study tour of Great Britain with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible. Well, yeah, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may well be his or her one and only time in the courtroom, and it could be life-changing. In which case, treating it as research may seem a little crass. Oh, when you put it like that, you're quite right. Good morning. Who are you? Mr. Natsume. Good morning. Oh dear, are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot. The early bird catches the worm, as they say here in Britain. Yes, I've heard that expression. But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried desperately not to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. And now I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Do all literary people take things so literally? Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsume. I wish I had 9 lives. My whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble. Wait, you're trembling now? Really? Because I can feel tremors on the floor. I can't do this. I can't take it. Although, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Yeah? I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Oh, neither did I. Do you know why that might be, Mrs. Sato? I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea. So that all-knowing look on your face is just a coincidence, then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me! It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? Lord Van Zykes? Is that right, Mrs. Sato? I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning. And yes, Lord Van Zykes on the front page of every one. I knew it. Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey, he stopped, appearing in court, it seems. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday. Yes, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zykes' return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. The trial of Magnus McGilded. Ugh, what a harrowing experience that was. I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's. But we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country. Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon, for what appears to be a mundane murder? That's the question the papers are asking, and they're all speculating various answers. Mundane? Mundane? It's the most significant saga of the century to some of us. Oh dear, I meant no offense, Mr. Natsume. But that is how the papers are describing it. Well, at least we can forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has caught people's attention. But there is another blatant similarity between the trial of 2 days ago. Yes, I agree. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire is you. Me? Well, I suppose that's true. Both times it is you who stands against the legendary prosecutor. It can only mean that you're friends with the Reaper. No. Actually. Please don't. I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers. I'm afraid there's really only one other explanation. It can only be another example, Mr. Naruhodo, of your uncommon bad luck. Thanks for that. Oh, this is just my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such a foul fortune, with such frail fortune? By the least lucky lawyer alive. Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. Yeah, it's true, I'm just a student, new to London with little in the way of experience or skills or luck, but I promise you this. I will fight your corner until the bitter end. Yes, his corner is gonna come at us. I'm gonna give him the left hook. Or the left hook. And I will believe in you, Mr. Natsume. Oh, benevolent locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. That's such a mouthful to say every time. You're not alone here, with us, Mr. Natsume. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side. Oh, benevolent non-locum assistant, Miss Mikotoba Esquires. I am in your debt forever. I shall never forget that. Mr. Natsume, counsel for the defense. The court session is about to begin. Kindly make your way into the courtroom at once. Alright then, Mr. Natsume. It's time. Let's go. Yes! Okay. This is it, my second appearance in a British courtroom. And my second trial against the Reaper. Hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because this time, I won't let my faith waver. I'll believe in my client till the last, just like you believed in me. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for the sight. I'm not. I'm sleepy boy. 20th of February, 10 a.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared, my lord. The defense is ready, my lord. Me and my bug-eyed expression. The Nipponese are truly a fascinating breed. Sorry, what? Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you are a student who arrived in London but 2 days ago. A mere amateur. Do you have a point? Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Nipponese arrogance. Still racist. Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Sato-san? After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent. Very true. And a most fascinating, if dark, trial it was, too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted and his unfortunate violent end. Thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fettle. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public? Why? You never know when you might be down on your luck, but I believe in fair play for everyone. Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear. Oh well, not me. What you see is what you get. I'm a peace-loving fellow. What? I'm afraid I think it's quite possible that mustached foreigner did the deed. Come on, what are we waiting for? No doubt he did it. Anyway. Sorry. Didn't quite catch that. Could you speak up? I'm not wearing any pants. Very well, let us proceed. Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zykes. Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with the rising power in the Far East. The accused in dock today is a student from that same land, a certain Mr. Soseki Natsume. And while our country has extended this foreign student the warmest of welcomes, regrettably the kindness has not been returned. In fact, this student is accused of a most sinister act. Of plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the streets. A knife crime? I tell you, from bitter experience, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are. Just look at... Just look at that sallow complexion, short stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese. Come on, at least get this over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Sorry. Didn't quite catch that. Pray forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hollowed chalice here in this great chamber. Again. Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please. Inspector? Right. Your name and occupation, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard. Would you please summarize the events of the case for the court, Inspector? The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green. I beg your pardon, Inspector. Thought to be? Yes. Having been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife, the victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago. She's been comatose ever since. What? So they don't even know who she is for sure? Comatose. I see. But her life's not in danger. Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. Pray elaborate on the details, Inspector. Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at this street map. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on pavement running alongside Briar Road, a wide thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles. But I thought it was over here she got stabbed. Okay, well, anyway. It had not been long since it stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared, and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take statement from her, of course. This is the case file with everything we know about the victim so far. Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence if you please. Case file has been entered into the court record. What of the weapon that was used? Sir, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back. Why do I keep going Southern? He's a British man. He should be talking like this, and a little more gruff. Ugh. Ouch. That big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now. Let's examine the court record. Incident report. Details. Young woman rendered unconscious following a stab wound to the back. Olive green, female, stout build, early 20s. Pavement of Briar Road. Location is pavement of Briar Road, east side. Reporting officer, Rolly B. The victim remains unconscious. Her name was gleaned from her personal effects. Other details are unknown. Apart from the single stab wound from the large knife, no other signs of injury were observed. The assailant was seen running away by the reporting officer and was successfully arrested the following day. Okay. With a heavy blade like that, almost anyone would have been able to stab the poor woman. Even the scragged-looking Soseki-san, I suppose. A common or garden jackknife, I would say, rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence. Did they, like, dust it for fingerprints or something? Did they even have that technology back then? A large but commonplace folding knife is found lodged in the victim's back. It has been added to the court record. Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume? From what I can tell, looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have anything. She would have had anything much worth pension, my lord. I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-slated resentment towards the victim? I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from visiting second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim. If theft and grievance have been ruled out as a motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that? In a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way. That's new! Pray, forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery, but your words have soured its hollowed bouquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here. What? Scotland Yard does not arrest people without a good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, in the prosecution, calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nipponese student. I forgot to have my stream preview up. Yes, sir. Witness testimony. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred. There was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he'd just bought, he was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the bloke and to arrest him. Old books, you say? Yes, my lord. I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime taken immediately after the incident. Ah, yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring. I will take that photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector. Crime scene photograph has been entered into the court record. A photograph of the scene taken by a policeman just after the incident occurred. A large knife can be seen thrust into the victim's back. You Nipponese are a spineless breed, too cowardly to admit defeat, denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Well, Forgive me, Lord Van Zykes, but the defendant is not denying everything, as you put it. What are you doing, Miss Sato? Do go on. Mr. Natsume has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now that you mention it, when we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what all had happened. I was walking along that accursed pavement. I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat, a woman wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a scream, collapsed onto the cold hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there, so I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings. A green overcoat. No, that's exactly what the woman in print is wearing. Oh my, a photographic print in full color. What will the world come up with next? The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of the terrifying incident. That does not mean he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back. There was nobody else there at the time, just the two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there is nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. A fact that the accused concedes. It does seem this cross-examination could prove to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please. Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred. There was an unusually light fog. A light fog, you say? Well, a light for London. You could see the opposite side of the street for once. Not much farther, though. That's light, is it? Around these parts, yes. Not something I'd expect a Japanese fellow like yourself to know, of course. I've read that London is famous for its fog, but in my country, people usually imagine that gives the city a rather beautiful appearance. How quaint. Yes, well, it's not something us Londoners tend to romanticize. I expect you can appreciate. I see. At this time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents, especially when it's heavy. Sometimes you can't even see your own hand at the end of your arm. Indeed, just the other day I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage they were pulling. Susato-san and I should definitely remember to stop, look, and listen. However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. A fact no doubt lamented by the accused. Visibility was reasonably good. There was no one else about but the victim and the accused. How are you able to state that with any certainty? Quite simply, my learned friend, because that is what the witness said to this crime. The witness to this crime have told us. Witnesses. Ah yes, Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, didn't he? That's right, one of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard. That is correct, madam. Then we must hear their testimony. The prosecution will, of course, call them to the stand should it be necessary. But wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen. I am unaware of the situation on your tiny island in the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by gas street lights. The prosecution believes there would have been ample light by which the witness came. I did not finish reading. Ample light by which to witness the crime. There we go. Quiet here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness. Which means we really need to hear those witnesses' statements. If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to. It seems the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. From behind, you say? That's right, as you can see from this print. Oh, I haven't examined things yet. Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. Hold up. I have yet to examine evidence, which is my own fault. How could this knife have stabbed anyone? It's missing its tip. Oh, look here, Mr. Naruto. Just at the tip, a small piece of the blade appears to be missing. You're right. Well spotted, Miss Susato. I wonder what could have happened to it. Yes. You don't think it could still be lodged in the victim, do you? Oh dear, I hope not. Sounds terribly painful. Okay. Okay. Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. And you say this poor woman, Miss Green, remains in critical condition, comatose no less? I'm afraid so, my lord. She's been treated at Bart's. I was hopeful she'd come around before the trial started so I could take a statement, but it wasn't to be. Yes, that is indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own account of the events. Luck is on your client's side, it seems. Alright. On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky. Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those disturbingly wide eyes, I'm afraid. Ugh. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. If Mr. Natsume's belongings... Mr. Natsume's belongings, I think you'll find it's all there in the photographic print of the crime scene. Yes, the 3 books on the floor. Oh, yes, the 3 books on the floor. That's right, my lord. Second-hand books, they were irreparably damaged after falling in the snow, of course. The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand, which means his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example. He's very clever, isn't he? What do you mean? He's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsume had his hands full with his books. He's managed to close the one avenue of escape we might have had before we even knew it was there. You mean to say the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust the knife into the woman's back? That must be what happened, my lord, yes. Those being a number of old books he had just bought. He was on his way home from bookshop, it seems. The defendant apparently visits a secondhand bookshop on a daily basis. Yes, so I understand. A shop full of old English literature. I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention. The bloke's room was stocked floor to ceiling with those musty old books. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector? Well, if I must. I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid. The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused lodgings is this place here, Bourbon Books. Yo, what's up, Luce? A little place on the corner of Briar Road and Mearsham Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in the lodgings on the other side of Briar Road, at the opposite end. Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. I'm doing good. How are you doing, Luce? Something like this. Local maps information has been updated in the court record. Yes, I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. You're good? That's good. The defendant would clearly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop. Mr. Naruhodo, I think what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance. Where is the receipt from? Your books, right? Yes, I agree. The most important point that the inspector just made being the bookshop's name. Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor? Well, would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be of vital importance. Maybe? Oh, well, you know, I mean, yes, it could be very important clue. Very well, not that I can see it being of any great significance, but please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector. Yes, sir, my lord. Whatever you say. Could the man be any more sardonic? He was on his way home from Bourbon Books, a second-hand bookshop he regularly patronizes. It's just a matter of working out who the books belong to, and we found the bloke to arrest him. You asked for help in the famous detective Sherlock Holmes to locate the defendant, I believe. Stuff and nonsense. Sorry? That Jack in office, that busybody, just comes and sticks his oar in whether we ask him or not. But according to what I have here, Mr. Sholmes was shown the scene by a Scotland Yard detective. Well, that was nothing to do with me. The lads at the scene must have done it, without my permission. Man brought snacks with him in the court. Big brain, I know, right? I tell him time and again, whenever something happens, send word to headquarters. Then follow your bloomin' instructions. I see. If that meddler gets his hands on any details, we'll all be reading it in Randst magazine next month. And you can bet your last farthing that I'll be in there too, stripped of all my hard work on the case. Yes, Mr. Sholmes. No, Mr. Sholmes. Aren't you clever, Mr. Sholmes? That's all the thanks I'll be getting. Inspector, if the man is proving detrimental to the yard's activities, perhaps I should step in and deal with him? It appears that Inspector Gregson is lost for words. Yes, the Reaper's words carry a lot of weight, obviously. Anyway, the point is, that little Japanese bloke's already admitted it. He's admitted that those books all over the pavement at the scene were the ones he bought that day. His chips flew away. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? You're unable to sway the jury during this cross-examination, I'm afraid. But Mr. Natsume's fate will be sealed. Yes, they're sure to find him guilty. Never mind, they're back. They are magic. He can take bites of them, and they just pop back into existence. I'll have to expose an undeniable inconsistency in the inspector's testimony. Take that. If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson. What is it, Sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know. This is a receipt we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident, and details the purchase of 3 second-hand books. Gossamer Green. Gregson holds the secret to world hunger. I know. We need to know who gave him those chips. Or what his secret is. And you found that in this accused room, did you? Yeah, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it. Go on. This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books. Your Books? Y-O-R-E, I presume? Yes, my lord. So, Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books. Eh? What? Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop? Yes, sir. Your Books is another second-hand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that Well, it's such a small place. I didn't think the accused would have known about it. But in fact, that is the bookshop which the defendant visited on the day in question. And the receipt proves it. What are you objecting to? Yes, for what difference does it make? For what difference it makes whether the man purchased his musty tomes. It makes no difference in the final analysis. I disagree. I mean, after all, I have the street map here, if that might be of help. Oh, yes, thank you. Have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that he actually left from another bookshop, Your Books, it may very well turn out that he wouldn't have passed that location at all. Some musty tomes. Does Van Zykes have to be so rude for no reason? I don't know. Could that be true? I might. Rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility. Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What you just said? Absolutely. It absolutely could be right. Inspector Gregson, where is this Your Books establishment? Well, obviously we looked into that. It turns out Your Books is just here on the next corner of Mearsham Street? I don't know how to pronounce that. Going east. Mearsham. A street map has been updated in the court record. And there you have it, as you can clearly see now. Oh. My learned Nepalese friend is obviously in training to be a clown, the way he regales us with such witticisms. To your future career in the circus. Dang. Need some help for that burn there? You put that glass down now, or I'll put it down for you. Didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here we go. If the accused was coming home from Your Books instead of Bourbon Books. Gotta give it to Van Zykes, that was a good burn. It really was. Sato is mad because he got us good. There's no doubt he would still have passed the place where the victim was stabbed. Yes, thank you, Inspector. Allow me to reiterate for my learned, if somewhat slow, Nepalese friend. Do you not want to drink that, ever? Do you just like it for the smell, my guy? Wherever the man purchased his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis. As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try. What did I say, eh? I've had enough of this now.
Beg your pardon. Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that? Speak up, Sonny. I'm not wearing pants.
Everyone's just bringing things into the court now. Yeah. Mr. Naruhodo, we mustn't give up. What do you mean? If the prosecution's assertion is correct, the members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty. She's absolutely right. We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully. Plot twist, Van Zykes only likes wine for the vibes. He doesn't actually like drinking it. Yup. I mean, that's clear because he literally chucked an entire bottle of freshly uncorked wine into the spectator gallery, like at the very beginning of this court proceeding. They claim Soseki-san may have passed the location of the incident on his way home from your books, but we always object here. Objection! The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed. Yes, but how? Explain yourself, counsel. Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. I love his bottle chuck. Such a chill way to throw it. He's like, meh. When returning from your books to his lodging, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. If the defendant used these streets, looks what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked. Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that route, which is commonly referred to as the long way around. Casual two-finger grip, yeah. On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take the longer route home? Well, the answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings and is the obvious perpetrator of this crime. Yes, I've got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home. They have already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection. That's right. As I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took home. I don't believe this. I thank you, my learned friend, and suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around the subject. Pray, what say you, insightful jurors? But even if that's the case, the defense still... Oh, everyone's angry. I agree with Lord Van Zyx, wholeheartedly in every way. What? I don't believe it. Does this mean... We members of the jury are completely convinced now. Very well. In that case, I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Guilty! 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 Guilty!
He's Irish? Wait. Juror number 5 is Irish? What? Okay. That confuses me. His design says nothing of the sort. It appears the jury's leaning is unanimous. Alright, let's go back to that old archaic thing that made us work last time. I think he's going to jail. Maybe. To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You served the Queen and country admirably. Mr. Naruhodo. No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of those scales the other way. I have to turn this around, somehow. Those are the eyes of inquiry not yet willing to give up and die. So, I presume you intend to wield your right again in this trial? Rights of the defense written into the antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago. Call it antiquated if you want, but it's the defendant's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses. Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with the summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that Nepalese whippersnapper and his onkus refusal to throw in his alley. Very well then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined to find the defendant to be guilty. Watch one of them just be, I'm bored, I want to go home. For pity's sake. That little Nepalese oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he? If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim. But he also didn't say which direction she collapsed to him. Like, he could have been in front of her. The man wouldn't have gone around to the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in the winter. The poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful. I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing.
Your books, yes. Nice shop that, but bourbon books, no, not worth a visit.
What? Sir. Okay. With only minor exceptions, the reasonings for finding defendant guilty are all too clear. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene of the crime. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already. Oh dear, even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt now. Why did he have to run away like that? Now we're supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that no one else could see? This is impossible. How could I possibly make a case for the defense? Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. If we want to force the trial to continue... Yes, I know, we have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their minds. Well, 4 of them at least. Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward. You have the floor, counsel. Begin your summation examination. Yes, my lord. Just need to keep this trial going somehow, whatever it takes. Come on, Ryunosuke, you can do it. Give me your chips, Inspector. That little Nipponese already admitted it himself, didn't he? He said that woman in green collapsed before his eyes, but it can only have been the victim. Man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter. Poor woman is attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful. Wait. I really don't care. Can we just wrap this up now? I got work to be doing. Your books, nice shop. Bourbon books, not worth a visit. When in doubt, press everything. Yeah.
Hold it!
Excuse me, aren't you... Yes, that's right. I was the witness in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago. Yes, I had a feeling I knew your face, or the sight of it anyway. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you? That's right. After the gold rush down under, I came back to London to work. And it was all going swimmingly until you started fossicking around. Bruce Fairplay was a man of repute. I swear, I cannot nail his accent at all. I keep going from country bumpkin to proper banker. Don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. You had me and that young hatter pegged as criminals. Oh, well, you know, water under the bridge. Now, there's all sorts of rumors buzzing around, and the police have been badgering me non-stop. If I could turn back the clock... Well, anyway, I don't know about the Hatter, but at least I'm in the clear now. And free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't. Thank goodness. Alright, maybe I might struggle to change this man's mind given our awkward history. Oh dear, I wonder what's become of Mr. First now. And collapsed before his eyes, killing the victim. You're right that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to having seen someone wearing the green overcoat walking ahead of him. Quite. Well, quite. It's precisely my point. Clearly, that someone's wearing green was the victim. And clearly, that funny little Nepalese man with the disturbing mustache is the culprit. But let us not forget, madam, the defendant vehemently denies attacking the woman. Why, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. The man obviously is obviously a liver-faced coward, honestly, claiming the woman simply collapsed before his eyes. But if that's a lie, as you're suggesting, do you not think he would have concocted something more credible? Oh, I really couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. Who's to say what goes through your funny little minds? I could tell you what's going through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it. I do declare the man's already made the admission. He himself has stated that there was nobody else around. Surely the conclusion is obvious. No one else could have possibly committed this awful crime. If no one else could have done it, the accused must be the man, really. It couldn't be more simple. Your argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit. Oh my, you're too kind, my lord. That went well for her. Man wouldn't have gone around the houses. I don't think this is one of the ones we pit against the others, but whatever. But you can't deny there are other routes back. There are other routes. You can't deny there are other routes Mr. Natsume could have taken back from your books. Oh yes, like you drew on the map. You mean, what was it? Calabash Road or something? Precisely. But it seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese fellow actually went that way or not. Well, yes, that is true. And at the moment, there's no proof that shows he did what that shows he did, is there? Well, yes, that's true as well. And as I understand it, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he? Well, yes, that's annoyingly true. Winter nights are dark and cold, so the way I see it, you want to get home as quickly as possible. Well, yes, why is all this true? So really, the only thing that makes sense is that he went home along Briar Road. I'm supposed to be convincing you here. I've given it a lot of thought, you know. I didn't just make up my mind on a whim that he did it. I mean, if there was some logical reason why he might have gone Calabash Way, it'd be different. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case, honest I would. A reason why Saseki-san might have taken the longer way home. Yes, a good reason. I don't imagine you'll be able to sway this young man's opinion with that one. Hold on. I want to hear this, guys. Sorry?
Forget? Sorry, fold it, you say? Fold what?
No, what I said was hold it. What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often?
I like old books. The old books they have there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of old tea. That is my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about.
And what time did you visit your books on the day in question?
Well, I was picking out old books in there all afternoon, and would have been just before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're talking about.
Just before 5, you say, exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time?
Oh, yes, no mistake there. I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry, not after the dreadful time I had.
What do you mean?
Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on the ice and doinked my head.
And he's wearing a green overcoat! Wait! Did he see this guy and then be like, oh my god, somebody died, and just booked it?
It's always worse after the snow stopped falling. That's when it's most slippery. Knocked myself clean out, I did. I really thought my number was up.
Wait a minute, let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road?
That's right. I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your books.
Juror number 6, I must insist that you add that information to your formal statement. It may be very well extremely significant.
Sorry, extremely sick. No, I'm quite alright now.
I didn't know that people could amend their testimony on the juror stand. That's important to know. Oh wait, I was reading that, but I didn't read it out loud. It sends shivers down my spine to hear members of the jury so convicted of Mr. Natsume's guilt. But I can't help feeling that some of their opinions are rather subjective. Still, at least their assertions don't actually incriminate Mr. Natsume of anything. That's something. We must use that to our advantage, Mr. Naruhodo, cunningly. Yeah, you're right. Let's listen to the jurors again carefully, and if any of their assertions are at odd, I'll pit them mercilessly against each other. Yes, don't hold back. Pit them all against each other. Boop, boop, boop. Okay.
Hold it!
You! Whatever's the matter, young man? You're the wife of Miss Garadeb, aren't you? The landlord who rents Mr. Natsume's room? The master's wife? Where did you get your idea, sir? I'm the maid. The maid, you understand? He's keeping up that charade. Ugh, this is going to be awkward. Why didn't you mention this yesterday? That you'd been selected for the jury in this trial, I mean. Well, I was told not to mention it to anyone until the day of the trial, you see. It was in the letter I received. The instructions were very clear. I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsume, the defendant, takes lodging in your master's house, doesn't he? Yes, that is quite right. Although he's only been in a little over a week now. And in that time, surely you must have taken stock of his character. Does Mr. Natsume look like the kind of man who would commit a crime such as this? Oh my goodness me, yes, he is just the sort. What? Spending all his time in that dark, dingy room sporting that scrupulous mustache. The man never speaks. Don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbors are talking about him. I've heard them, yes. You know, people think he must be building a bomb in there or something. Oh dear, poor Mr. Natsume. How could people say such things about him? He's just a harmless bookworm, nothing more. Well, you just called him a worm, so... Anyway, I better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She said enough dang things already. Enough damning things. I really don't care. Let's just wrap this up now. I've got work to be doing. Okay. Press. What you doing? The bookworm has no friends and keeps to himself. Obviously a terrorist. Exactly. That is what she is saying. A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes. Don't get clever with me now, son. My life's on the line too, and so is my family's. The likes of you wouldn't understand, but the laborer like me can't afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't eat, and neither do the wife and kids. Oh, I see. That must be very hard. I go to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late, your work's taken. It's tough. This time of year, there's water and gas supply pipes bursting left and right and center. After their cheap labor, to get the roads dug up to fix it, it's hard to... Let me try that again. Thereafter, cheap labor to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's hard slog from dawn till dusk it is. So you're digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you? That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just around the corner from where it all happened. By the old bookshop it was. What? Another coincidence? That's right, Mersham Street it was. Mersham Street. On the map, Mr. Naruhodo, there are only 3 named streets. Juror number 4. Juror number 5. I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please. What's the point in that? Can't we just get this business over with now? Please, sir, it's important. Tisk. Fine. I'll do it. The day it happened, I was digging up Merchant Street from dusk till dawn. Can I press it again? So, if I understand correctly, you're a day laborer and you were doing road maintenance that day? That's right, like I said, we get a lot of burst gas and water pipes underground in the middle of winter. It's the only time of year fellows like me can actually make a few bob, and I'm missing out today. And when you say from dawn till dusk? Well, the work has to be completed within the day. See, no coaches or pedestrians can pass while it's happening. Wonder if I could trouble you, sir, to mark on the street map the exact location of the works you were carrying out? Give it here, then. Let me have a look. Right. Let's see, then. Ah. Yes, it is all coming together. It was a tidy dig, I can tell you. We had to get through all the drifts of snow that had frozen solid. And at what sort of time did you finish the work? Well, we started in the morning, Quinta finished before gone 6, I'd say. The snow had stopped coming down, but it was long past dark for sure. That means the road work was still going on when Miss Green was attacked around 5 o'clock. Roadworks on Mersham Street, huh? So, that now contradicts with the third jurors. Yeah, the third jurors one. Slipped on Calabash, not to clean out. Okay, no, wait, I needed to press that again, not skip it. Oh, I can't go backwards. You also amended something to your testimony. And that was around 5 o'clock, you say? The same time as the victim was attacked. I don't know anything.
I don't know anything about the girl who was stabbed, but my dinner's on the table at the same time every day.
And for the record, could you please identify the precise location of your fall?
Goodness, it was aeons ago now. I'm not sure I can remember.
It was 3 days ago. Try dredging your memory, please.
Well, let me see. It was especially slippery around about... Ah, yes, I remember now. It was just on the corner here.
What happened to you then? Were you alright?
Well, you don't get too many people now down Calabash Road, you see. So there was no one around when I fell. No one around when I knocked myself out. No one around when I came to again, and no one around when I sneezed. So I picked myself up and went back to my nice warm house where my grandchildren were waiting for me.
Is that a lonely picture you paint, sir? You were fortunate to have not frozen to death. Yes, how lucky it was. How lucky that he wasn't more seriously injured. True, it sounds like it was very nearly another hospital admission or worse. Yes, one more thing. Were you wearing that same green overcoat on the day in question?
Absolutely, it's the only coat I have. It took until this morning to dry out properly. Good job, too, or I'd have nothing to wear here. So count your blessing, I'd say. Ho ho ho. Santa, is that you? Are you Santa? In disguise?
I suppose we should. This gentleman certainly had a close shave there. Okay. So has the court record for the map been updated for all of these? No. Which means we do have to pit people against each other given the information. So we can pit you against you.
Objection!
These two statements are clearly at odds with one another. At odds, counsel, explain yourself. Please don't point at me. It wasn't me, I swear. What? I just want to get this done and dusted. Well, juror number 3. Oh, me, sir? What do you mean? Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implication of what's been said on our map of the local area. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of secondhand books. And on the same day, we now know there were works being carried out on Mersham Street, making it impassable. Which means the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Mersham Street and down Briar Road. Oh yes, of course. What do you think, sir? Well, yes. Well, yes, you can't argue that... words. Well, yes, you can't argue with that, really, can you? You must have had a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way. So the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings. Yes, I suppose he must have. I suppose that must be right, eh? Juror number 3, you said the following. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. But we see now that he had no choice. Yes. My lord, Mr. Judge, sir, if I may. Yes? I don't think in all good conscience I can say that the man's guilty now. Yes, I'd like to see this trial continue so we can get to the bottom of what really happened. What about you, sir? Who? Me? Well, alrighty then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled in. That's what I say. Bow. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. That was wonderful. Well, we've managed to change a couple of minds at least. It's strengthened our position somewhat. Yes, and it will prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider the stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current leanings are really right or not. Now, if only we could just identify one more clearer discrepancy to make them stop doubting Mr. Natsume. We might be able to tip the balance completely. Yes, that's exactly what we've got to do. Van Zyke's looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent, by whatever means we have at our disposal. Thank you, Counsel. On with the summation examination, please. Yes, my lord. Alright. I have to say not guilty at this point, so I can see where the trial goes from here. Digging up roads or digging the truth. Gotta see it through, haven't you? Slipped over. I believe it's gonna be this guy. And this one.
Objection!
Because now I think it's him who fell in front of the guy. Those two statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning. A flaw? What are you talking about, Counsel? Well, juror number 2, juror number 6. My, whatever do you mean? I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you. Unbelievable, it's not like I was loud or anything. There's at least one fact of which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to Your Books and purchased a number of secondhand titles. He then returned home on foot. But the man says he has no recollection of his return journey. That's correct. But what he does remember was seeing someone appear in front of him on the way. Someone in a green overcoat who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes. Yes, we are all aware of this. The poor young woman who was stabbed, obviously. Can we really be sure of that, madam? My, whatever do you mean? I'm sure you heard juror number 6's account of what happened to him that day. That same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim who was wearing a green overcoat and who fell over on the icy streets in the neighborhood. Oh my. Huh? My goodness, you mean... That's right. I'm referring, of course, to hard of hearing juror number 6. Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes was the jolly old gentleman at the end of the bench here with me today? That is entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim. Well, look at that. Oh my goodness me.
Sorry. You need a pee?
And crucially, Ryunosuke has to crucially pee. We know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell. On Calabash Road. Therefore, if the person who Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home. You idiot, man. If you hadn't been so daft as to be roaming around about there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago. And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat?
What did you say to me? Is it a crime for the elderly to walk the streets these days? Is it a crime to slip over ice? Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat? Is it?
My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but you'd like to change your leaning, I presume? I do declare I would. I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
And I would too.
What?
Is it a crime to change your mind? Is it? Well... Oh.
Well, that summation examination is concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The ayes 2, the noes 4. So the noes have it not guilty, they say, which means we no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue.
Objection!
He actually drank some? What?
Would it seem churlish of me to drink from my hollowed chalice moments after raising an objection? Only to crush it in disgust? Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zykes? It seems I must retract my earlier remark. What do you mean? I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. Yet we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Eastern entertainer. Eh? Whatever do you mean? I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth. Indeed, a stalwart Stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the roads, as he claims. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of pavement which you had excavated, sir. That's right, it took me the whole day, and they paid me a measly 2p for it. Now, my learned Nipponese friend, tell me, do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents? Well, if I'm honest, I don't have a clue, no. Why are we using imperial measurements in Britain? Why? If I'm honest, I don't have a clue, no. 2 yards is a little less than 2 meters. Less than 2 meters? That's not much at all, really. In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigor. Would you not agree, my stalwart friend? Eh? Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong, no. What? And did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your works? I wouldn't dream of it. What a waste of time. No coaches would have a hope of passing anyway. No coaches would have had hope of passing anyway, and we just turn any gentlefolk back when they come. Kids just jump right over us all the time. The accused is no gentleman. As far as I can see, I have little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town. Ah. Is that true? Is it? The incontrovertible truth is that the book just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume walked down Briar Road. Crushed in a single sentence. And old man.
Old man, you can talk.
What? What? You say that around 5 o'clock on the day in question you slipped and fell on Calabash Road. Pray, was there a suspicious-looking Nipponese man behind you at the time?
Oh, I can't say as I remember.
You don't remember? How about the wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man that the accused saw, but I would lay 1,000 to 1 against you being able to prove it.
Order, order. Lord Van Zykes, explain yourself.
My lord?
If you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not proffer it during the summation examination?
I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. Ugh. But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. Oh, off comes the cloak. So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over. What are you talking about? My lord. The prosecution requests permission to call its next witness to the stand.
Granted. Bailiff, bring forth the witness.
It's next witnesses?
Mr. Narhuda, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions there were eyewitnesses to the incident.
Yeah, I remember. Of course, one of them being Scotland Yard policeman, no doubt. I'm afraid that is likely to be the prosecution's next witness. Alright, no matter who Van Zykes brings to the stand as his witness, and no matter what they say, I'll believe in Soseki-san. I know he's innocent, and I'll keep believing to the very end, until this battle is over. Scotland Yard kid looks very sleepy. Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. Constable Rowley Beat, sir. Nothing to report on the streets, sir.
And I'm Miss Beat. Patricia's my name. I'm proud to say I'm this young town hero's wife.
What's the story here?
Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we have celebrated our first anniversary only the other day.
No, it was your husband I was asking about. He seems tired.
Hardly surprising. Whilst being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world.
Oh, really? I'm sure I've heard that before, actually.
Indeed, apart from rare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, don't you know? They patrol boarding houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the streets, check that meters are reading true, and they're responsible for keeping the streets clean, and lighting and extinguishing our streetlights.
There are a number of items on that list that don't sound much like policing duties at all. I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet, I'd have collapsed long ago. But it goes without saying that a policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals. Even when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bobby is a man of honor. And a man of slumber. On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beat?
Isn't that right, sir? That's right, sir, isn't it, Rowley? Constable Rowley Beat, sir. Nothing to report on the streets, sir.
What a great witness he is going to be.
Very good. I'd like to hear your formal testimonies now, please. You will tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident. Yes, sir. Witness testimony. It was our wedding anniversary and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor and the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then we went for help at a nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rolly and I both saw him as clear as day. Well, this is extremely This is extremely compelling testimony, I must say.
That's it? Oh dear, this policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene. If their testimony is true, the alternative course of events that you established in the summation examination will be quashed. It's death knell, in fact, because that alternative was never viable in the first place.
What an unfortunate chanting. And on your wedding anniversary, too.
Oh, I know, but I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. I thank the Lord for that. Gosh, the life of a London Bobby sounds very hard indeed. Indeed, however, this cross-examination will be over in minutes. You may well have time to rest this afternoon. What do you mean by that? My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. They are testifying under oath that it was, without doubt, the accused Mr. Soseki Natsume. And one of these witnesses is a policeman, no doubt, so you appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure. Except that the man's so tired, his wife has to do all the talking. Ugh.
Enough preamble. Counsel for the defense, commence the cross-examination, please.
Yes, my lord. Cross-examination. It was our wedding anniversary and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them collapsed on the floor, and the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, then went for help at a nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rolly and I both saw him as clear as day. Okay.
Hold it!
Well, let's start from the first spot. No time to change after work, you say. Are you also a member of the police, Mr. B? Miss Beast? Mrs. Beat. Oh no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women, children, and the elderly can't even apply. Well, I think you can probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can you? I think Rolly looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down to the ground, doesn't it, darling?
What?
I just finished my beat.
Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there.
Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy.
Also, does he have like duct tape all over his helmet? Oh no, Rolly, I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes I don't recognize you when I see you in plain clothes.
Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy.
Kindly adhere to the point. You were going for a meal after you'd finished your beat for the day, correct? That's right, sir. Although I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet.
Yeah, he's very poor. It's very poor and banged up, it looks like.
Can't afford a new hat. But policing is my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and the Queen till the end. What's that now? My warrant card, sir. Proof that I'm a London copper. It has the noble founding of principles of the first written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. Sir, and for such noble cause, I cover 20 miles every single day without fail and without a grumble. Because I know that the plodding of my boots is all Londoners need to hear to feel safe and secure.
So, fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it then.
But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding with anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up a lot with... I'm going too fast. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot being married to a bobby like me. I want to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold.
If a little over the top, perhaps?
And then kindly describe what happened next. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us.
I meant
Praise.
Hold it!
Two silhouettes. That's right, they were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure, followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man.
That does sound exactly like the victim as pictured in this print, like Mr. Natsume. Yes, unfortunately it does.
And you are certain at the time there was nobody else nearby? Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there are streetlights on Briar, you see. There was nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling?
Yoink.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, there was a light fog on the ground. But Briar Road is dead straight. You could see a fairly long way down the pavement. And there's the street lighting as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians. Before a sleep takes a firm hold on me. Yes, ma'am? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And running to get got ready.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Love you too. Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer, please, Mr. Beat. Are you quite sure of what you have just said? Yes, sir. As a copper, as a copper who spends a day every day keeping watch on the streets, I'd swear to it, sir. As I'm sure my love for Patricia is true. Oh, Pat. It's a little cheesy here. Swimming in the cheese.
They're still maintaining there was no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. Starting to seem like that must be how it really happened.
It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to turn. Nowhere to run.
Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly.
Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed? All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor, and the other scattered something up before running off.
Scattered something? What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time. But then, when we got closer, we realized what it was, didn't we, darling? Yes, that's right. It was some old books. I see, old books. Yes, sir. The culprit had dropped a number of them all.
That's not his voice.
The culprit had dropped a number of them all around where the victim lay on the pavement. Indeed, as clearly pictured in this photographic print.
I have lost the voice.
That rotten Japanese man, That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed.
Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker.
But we saw him. He was the man in the dock, without the question, sir. The mustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eyes, and the taut mouth, the snub nose. Everything.
No, I'm just botching the accent now. Any more insults you want to throw in?
That's right, he looked down at the poor defenseless woman with those terrifying, intense eyes, and then suddenly he threw his books onto the pavement and ran away.
I see. This is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here.
May I remind the court that this unambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. Now please continue. Yes, sir. We ran straight over, of course, then went for help at the nearby police box.
Here. Was it your husband who went to fetch help?
No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling?
Yoink.
Yes, that's right. I asked Miss Eat to go. I was off duty at that point, but Bobby's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obligated to stay and guard the scene. Very laudable. Mr. Beat, preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance. That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right box.
Forgive my ignorance, but what do you exactly mean by the right police box?
Depends on the crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat, so I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beat the incident fell under so she could go and report it. I ran there as quickly as I could, asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There's nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know. And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved, the actions of two model citizens. Oh please, you're making us blush, isn't he, darling?
Yoink.
Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir.
Let's move on, shall we?
It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rolling and I both saw him clearly as day.
But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, would you?
We absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight. I'll have you know.
Right.
The light from the street lamps was more than enough. And my husband already told you that the fog was only light, didn't he?
Yes, and what of the fog?
We're famous for it across the globe, I believe. But it's an absolute menace to those of us who have to live with it, of course. Oh, it is, it is. When it's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm.
Yes, alright, I take your point. Now, could you stop shaking your husband about?
The constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see. That's why we can tell you for sure and certain that it was that little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling?
Yes,
It was the accused, no mistake. The mustache and hunched back. The cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose.
unmistakable, sir.
As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question.
It was Soseki-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime.
So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony? What do you think?
Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beat saw what they say they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road. That day.
Yes, I feel the same. So if that's true, where does it leave us? The members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony.
Oh no, then what do we do?
If Kazuma-san were here,
What are you trying to say?
I think he would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony.
What do you mean somewhere else?
Their statement about seeing Mr. Natsume's unequivocally calling that into question won't help. But if you could identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate.
Oh, right.
Okay. Focus on finding a discrepancy in these statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion.
Why do I always seem to be so up against it?
Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you a question?
Oh yeah, of course. What is it?
Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... Seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right? Is it? Well, out with it.
What? No. Oh, no, it's really not that at all.
My husband's a policeman, remember? I know what I saw. I remember every last detail, everything, like... Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped? I could tell you the names of every single one I could. Every single one. And you dare question how reliable my testimony is?
That will do, Miss Beats.
No, it won't do at all. The Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, I don't think for a minute that Rolly will.
I really didn't mean to cause offense.
Please put your husband's fists down.
Perhaps you would like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Miss Beat. Might that appease you?
Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling? I'm taking that as yes. Even tell you the names of the 4 books he dropped at the scene.
I only bought 3. I could present it now.
But you know, let's test. Let's press it.
Yes, we know that there were books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say.
Those purchased by the accused at the nearby second-hand bookshop on that day in question. after I'd been to the police box for help, well, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. I'm a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did it for Rolly.
And what was your husband doing at the time?
Oh, he was lying face down in the snow and getting some well-deserved rest.
Nom, nom, nom.
He works ever so hard, you know, ever so hard. Don't you, my darling?
Interesting way of guarding the scene of crime.
Well, Miss Beat, seeing as you've regaled the court with your tales of your powers of recollection, would you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene? I'd be happy to. Now are you all listening? There was the picture of Monsieur Somebody or other. What's it, yearnings? And there was a meal for someone, and the last was definitely the thingamagummy something. You see?
Yes, I see there are 1 or 2 holes in your memory.
Well, they were along those lines, I'm quite sure.
There were indeed books found at the scene with titles along those lines, as you put it. Oh. Wait, wrong voice.
There were indeed books you found at the scene with the titles along those lines, as you put it. Well, what did I tell you? So I think it's very mean the way you've been implying that my testimonies can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling?
Anyone who upsets my Patricia will have me to answer to.
Terrifying.
Yes, she really is.
He just, like, unholster his gun in court?
So that's it. That's their entire testimony.
What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though... Oh. No, it's just going back to the same thing.
Present.
This only has 3 books on it, right?
Canterbury Earrings.
It's funny that 3 of the 4 books is the same, but this one...
Are they just gonna accuse him of stealing it? I mean, this is the answer, but I feel like they're just gonna brush it off anyway and pull something else out their butt.
So you're saying that there were 4 books?
That's right, I remember all of them. The picture of Monsieur Somebody, what's it, yearnings, and a meal for someone. And the thingamies something.
I'm sorry, Miss B, but there is a fundamental flaw in the statement of yours.
Oh no, what flaw?
Simply that at the scene of the crime, there were only 3, not 4.
What?
This is the receipt from the bookshop where the defendant bought his books.
Your books?
Yes, and it details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day, but as you can see, only 3 books are listed.
Only 3? But no, that can't be. I remember seeing them. There are 4 books, I tell you. 4 books.
Oh, really? Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. Oh, so I could have presented either. As you can clearly see from this evidence, well, there are only 3 books.
But I just don't believe it. I saw them there, I swear it. I saw them.
No, madam, I'm afraid your powers of observation cannot be relied upon.
Grrr.
So it cannot be denied that though you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken.
Oh no, oh no, no, no. No!
Objection!
It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nepalese friend. What? What cannot be denied is that these two witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. A fact you know very well you have no hope of disproving. So you've striven to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair?
He sees right through me.
But your plan has somewhat recoiled against you.
What are you talking about?
It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect.
Oh?
You see, the matter is not up for debate. At the scene of Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found.
But what about the photographic print? It only shows 3 books.
Quite right, only 3 can be seen. In that print.
That print? You mean to say...
Yeet! Allow me to present another, one that shows the victim's hand. Was she eating the book? That looks like she had just taken a big old bite out of the book. The Lion's Pride. Oh, wait. No, that's, Mr. What's his name? Mr. something Nadab. Garadab? Now books are being eaten. No, it's his favorite book. He said it went up in flames, but it looks like she's got the book for some reason. Like it was thrown somewhere and she was able to pick it up, but like it's burned away. Garadab, ye. It's the 4th book. As you'll observe, the 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. No!
Order.
There, you see? Look at that, look.
Yes.
Just like I said, isn't my darling? Yes, sir. Patricia's always right, sir. Let us study the receipt for books purchased by the accused on that day in question. Miss Beat, and the titles once again, if you please. Oh, yes. Of course. The picture of Monsieur somebody or other. The picture of Monsieur Lecoq. What's it, yearnings?
Canterbury yearnings.
A meal for someone. A meal for Gabriel. As the court has just heard, the witness remembers the book titles flawlessly save for a few minor details. Miss Beat's powers of recollection can only be described as exceptional. Did you hear that, Rolly? The gentleman paid me a compliment. Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia is flawless.
But there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Miss Beat mentioned 4.
There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly, the 4th book is that which is shown in this photographic print.
I'm sorry, Counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt?
It's not odd at all. They're gonna say it's her book, when it's not. As the photographic print shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim.
The victim was holding her own book. I mean, that's how books typically work, yes? People who own them hold them.
I wonder what became of the 4th book. Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. You will submit that and the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, counsel.
My pleasure, Lord.
Second crime scene photograph has been entered into the court record. Thank you. Let's look at that now. The fourth book has been entered into the court record.
The prosecution rests.
Show me the things.
She went on the book.
Totally wasn't fire.
Mm-mm.
Ah, what's up, Funk? Let me see. It's a book entitled Lion's Pride. I'm afraid I don't know any English literature at all, so it wouldn't be something I've heard. Wait a minute, The Lion's Pride? That's strange. It's Mr. Garridub's favorite book. I think I have heard of a book by that name before, and very recently, too. It's a title I recognize too, Mr. Naruhodo. Only other notable thing on this that, Oh, look at this. The book has been badly burnt. You're right. You'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the later pages. What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently. A book recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag with me? Because it should! The fourth book's information has been updated in the court record. I'm pretty sure about as much time as the events of yesterday has passed since you dealing with this thing to being in court today is pretty much the same to what I've experienced going to sleep after this. I'm not talking to you, phone. What the hey? Chilling's listening to a very popular song here in Czech Republic about red wine and just really vibing at the moment. Nice. I have nothing further to add. What? You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. Dispersed longer route to the accused lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation examination, at the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination. Futile? I walked right into this one, didn't I? Wait. During the fire thing, when that happened with freaking Joan pelting John with everything, did that book get flung out the window and clock the victim on the head, and that's why she's in a coma? Not the knife stabbing. The knife stabbing had absolutely nothing to do with it, and she's just thick enough that it didn't actually bother her. But she has brain damage. Her Dane has been bramlaged. You know what's crazy? This means that Natsume really did vault over the gap in the road and just doesn't remember. Wait, what if both the knife and the book were chucked from the window? So that means Joan is the actual person who's done this. Gets clocked on the head, turns around, pick up the book. Knife comes flying in from the window. And just... You see, everything we said is true. Isn't that right, my darling? Wouldn't be the craziest solution in an Ace Attorney case. Yeah, that's fair. Yes, Miss Pat. Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat. So perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty? Or is the decision you have to make all too apparent already? You've heard all the witnesses and seen all the evidence. This trial has run its course. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we are in a terribly precarious position. I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way, now I could very well just make matters worse. Think, Ryunosuke, think. What will you do now? I'm gonna raise an objection that the book didn't belong to her, and see if it'll let me present the book as belonging to Mr. Garrideb. I'm not done yet. No, my learned friend, it is over. The last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There is no more room for debate. Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but I can't think of what to say. If I may, Lord Van Zykes, it seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point. Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless soul indeed, for a lowly judicial assistant to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this. Oh. I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you'll have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable. Mr. Naruhodo.
One of this land's great guiding principles is tolerance, so the court will hear you, madam.
Go ahead, Mr. Sato, please.
Very well, pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further?
Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished.
I see, and you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you?
Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think? It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. So we must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible.
Yes, I understand. Thank you, Mr. Sato.
This is it. Susato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. Can't let it go to waste. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord.
Yeah?
Very well.
The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently proffers a profound insight in this case, has hitherto been overlooked. The book, Your Honor.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book found in the victim's hand.
Attention.
We have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. That's what we're trying to do, you dingus. Sit down and let me talk. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know. I'm trying not to waste the court's time, but you interjecting like this is wasting the court's time, so shut up and let me talk.
Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that this evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So I must insist that you elaborate. Counsel. You will identify this clue at once. Do I make myself clear?
Oh, yes, sir, my lord.
It's,
Mr. Naruhodo? I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence, which means you may very well be on the right track.
yes, I think you may be right.
So, counsel,
Precisely where is the vital clue to this case, which is the fourth book?
It's missing. It's recent fire.
It's been badly damaged by fire. I need to present that this is repeating information.
Got it!
I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question.
the back, what do you... Good gracious. It's been burned to a crisp.
So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what was clearly an unreadable book? It's undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Their scarves are attached? What?
They took tying the knot very seriously, I guess.
Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Niptonese friend?
Well, I can too concede the point. If it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss.
So should you wish to assert this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happened that day?
Pray, do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide? There's just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, really, and certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory.
Don't keep us waiting any longer then, counsel. Explain this theory of yours.
What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage to the story? Its owner. My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals the startling truth about the book's owner.
I beg your pardon?
But we already know who the book belongs to.
The victim was gripping it in her hands as she fell to the floor after all. It's obviously hers.
The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand is yet to be answered. However, as to the question of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers.
Good gracious, how could you possibly?
Very well, I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry.
Counsel, the defense's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burned book?
Mr. Moonface, the Garadeb.
The answer is that book belongs to the couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb. The landlords? And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know, but of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Mrs. Garadeb herself.
Oh my goodness, me?
I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife. I'm his maid. Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Alright, then how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garadeb's house?
I would never presume to know all of the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused landlady, you say? You implicate this hard-working member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable.
No, I'm not saying she did it. Not yet, anyway. This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house.
Good lord, what sort of incident, Counsel?
A fire, my lord.
I'm afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course, and the bally furniture started going up as well. Worst of it, I lost my favorite book called The Lion's Pride.
The Lion's Pride.
By Jove, the very same title that's the subject of this debate. Oh, dearie me.
Objection!
This is reasonable. All you've told the court is that a book by the same name was involved in a fire, in which case it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime. Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was a marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Garrideb was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Garrideb, even amid the flames. Ben's like, can you let us cook, please? At least let us cook about as much as the book got cooked. Like, seriously. Oh, how awful. I can't even imagine being so horrid to the one you love, can you, Rolly? Ayo. Absolutely not, sir. My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir.
Had all of my favorite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. Then the wife started hurling things at me. There was I, back up against the window under heavy enemy fire. Incendiary books coming 10 to the dozen.
She was throwing books at him.
The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown at him? Goodness gracious, are you suggesting the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
Not just on the at the scene of the crime. I propose it struck the victim on the head. Upon la tête. No. A thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident. There was no report of Garrideb's window pane being broken. That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garrideb house. But is it not conceivable the window was open at the time?
Not even remotely. Let us not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies it.
No Londoner would ever leave a window opening in the middle of winter. I mean, unless he was actually smoking his pipe instead of stirring the tea with it. Because, you know, maybe he doesn't want the smell of whatever he was smoking in the house. You know, that's conceivable. It probably wasn't left open for a long time, but maybe?
Does the defense postulate this scenario in all seriousness, counsel? Do you earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was the flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garrideb's wife?
I believe it's a possibility, my lord. That's quite enough. Who, what, hi, and where? Oh, you.
Well, I hope that everyone can see you for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward.
Really?
Claiming that our little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight. Honestly. Implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake. How could you? It's nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name.
No, I assure you, that was never my intention.
Dragging upstanding citizens' name through the mud, simply to divert attention from your failing defense. Why did you just smack the person next to you? What is wrong with you? I should box your ears. That's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable. Yeah, box my ears like you force palmed your husband in the face? Like, just whooping. Sure. Too right. Here we go. How long have we sat here now listening to this Nipponi spouting his fancy foreign theories? Screw Joan, all my homies hate Joan. But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with the mustache, and he ran away from the scene too. I do declare you're right. It's true. Yes, what did I tell you? Makes sense to me.
Speak up, I'm still not wearing pants. What is that?
Well, it would appear the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zykes? In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings, but then one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage. No, wait. The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been... I'm drop-kicking my desk in defiance! Or axe-kicking. Either way. If the books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time. Look at my shoe, isn't it fancy? Blah. What? No forgive the discourtesy this time? In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, leg. Just Metaton starts dancing on the desk. Leg, 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 leg. You will now take your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear.
Guilty. Guilty.
Again?
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty. Pa, 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 pa. Thank you for that unambiguous response. It's twice now. It's over. Wait, no. That's a great video idea. Clips of Van Zykes sent to death by glamour. Someone just takes the model of Van Zykes and starts doing the Metaton poses with him. Mr. Naruto, don't give up. Miss Susato, have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet. You're not suggesting. Of course, the defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. You can still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance. My lord, the defense asks to exercise its right to a summation examination again. Humph. You'll believe you still have tricks up your sleeve. I don't intend to trick anybody. I've already seen a video of him set to every day is leg day, so it wouldn't be completely out of left field. Fair enough. I intend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. To be continued. I'm curious where this is going. We shall continue. To be continued now. But at the next to be continued, if it's not the end of the court proceedings, I am going to call stream. Because I have to be at work in 3 hours. And these take a while. I have considered the defense counsel's request for a further summation examination of the jury. and I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman? We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime. The juror's contentions. Number 2. The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window is closed, can it? But it might not have been closed. Dearie me, it was only a little book, hardly life-threatening, and with a direct hit. Look, I just want to get this over with. I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a titty bit of trouble.
Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. Gave me the sneezes.
I'm gonna have to press multiple people for amending their stuff. Okay.
Yes, considerably more tangible arguments from all members of the jury at this time around, it seems. With no one notable exception, of course. My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness's testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. Moreover, I like throwing wine. No one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way. Means I'm afraid during the summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. But how? What evidence? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman, and how? And those 2 details are all you need to provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted. And there I was thinking this might be hard. But Mr. Naruhodo, you have to do it. Otherwise, this really will be where the trial ends. No pressure then. That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you are prepared, counsel? Oh, yes, my lord. Alright, Rinosuke, focus your mind now. Slap. Clearly, the key to the summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid, or should I say Miss Garrideb. We have a book that disappeared from the Garrideb's house on the evening of the incident, and the 4th book found in the victim's hand. Must be a way to link the 2. Yes, that's what I have to find, using every technique I've learned in my short career so far, whatever it takes. Don't forget to keep an eye on Miss Garrideb and how she reacts even to the things other people say. Oh, I can do that on here too, can't I? Which is probably how I'm gonna make her crack. The accused left behind evidence. I don't really care about L3 because you're not adding anything. Over if I don't bring... Well, yeah, no, but explain yourself. You just want to get this over with. How can you sit there and say something like that? A man's future is at stake here. Build him and me both then, like I said before. What? I told you already, I'm a day laborer, aren't I? If I don't bring home some reddies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning. What? You heard me. My missus isn't one to mess about, you know. She can be fierce, believe you me. Another shining example of marital bliss, then. A situation like this is cropped up the other day. It was, well, do you know, it's funny, but I can quite remember. It was frightening. That's the thing. I must have blocked it out.
Helpful. Wonder if Miss Beat will ever be dragged into the Thames by his... I wonder if Mr. Beat will ever be dragged into the Thames by his car. Someone save these men. I know, right? Don't even go there, Mr. Sato. There must be some way to jog his memory about this.
Oh, but I think we had a fire.
Yeah, sure, fire. Fire! Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case?
Sorry, what's that? You'll have to speak up, lad.
Yay! Food. Thank you. Could you tell us more about that fire?
It was last winter my grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on top, it did. What a sight to behold it was.
And sounds like a fire hazard.
Everything must be here.
Yes, thank you. You put candles on a cake? Or was it some kind of devil worship?
Of course not. It was an angel cake. To celebrate my birthday, of course. Obviously.
It seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo. My cake?
Anyway, I mustered all my puff to blow them out. Only, I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but the candles went flying all over the room.
Man, Gramps is the big bad wolf over here.
Furniture caught and everything went up. Whole place filled with smoke.
Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold? But how did you catch a cold from a fire?
What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it.
The windows.
The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. Caught the terrible cold from it, and put me in the hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry.
I knew it was devil worship all along. Something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason. We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the street. As well as how he or she could have done it. Yes, but once again, the jurors' statements are all full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced that they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. Yeah, we're gonna need to put them against each other, but they don't have any useful information. I don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions, just a connection might do the trick. But how do we know there were 4 books, not 3? Well, what difference does it make? There's every possibility that the 4th book, in fact, belongs to the defendant's landlord. Yes, that's the part I have a problem with. Sorry? Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said?
That's not exactly how I put it, no. Well, anyway, the point is the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened. But overlooking the crime scene. I think that's what you call a strong alibi. So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only leaves the Nipponese fellow. Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver is about. It's a done deal, isn't it? I suppose it is, since I have nothing witty left to say. No more jokes to crack in court, therefore he is, no longer pressured. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. No, press it. Wait. There we go.
Hold it!
So you might be willing to change your decision, you mean? Oh my, such delight on your face, but I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I'm a very modern, metropolitan, and rational woman. That's great. If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see, modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking, wouldn't you say? And not at all extreme. As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. Despite one and two minor puzzlements, I do declare the man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say? Overwhelmingly? But us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know? So I'd be only too happy to hear you to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one. I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could. Let's do our very best to not just... Let's do our very best to not disappoint the modern and metropolitan young lady. Right. I'm glad you omitted rational there. It can't be related to this crime if the window is closed, can it?
Hold it!
But what about the possibility the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been. How can you be so sure? Prosecutor fellow over there said it earlier, didn't he? Winters in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors, so no window. So, no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, see? Juror number 3 looks like Nico. Noise. But you couldn't categorically state the window wasn't open, could you? It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. What's the point of even having windows, huh? Counsel, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering. Oh, I'm sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility the window is open. Oh, connection, right. These two. Her cheeks have jiggle physics. They do. These two juror statements clearly Oh, my mom's on the phone. I was like, what is that? These two juror statements clearly contradict one another. They do? How exactly, counsel? Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me.
What was that? Say, speak up, lad, speak up. My pants nearly burned off in the fire.
Juror number 3, do you see? Oh, me? See what, sir? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, you'd be mad not to open the... Oh! You're dumb. Exactly. On the day in question, the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garrideb household. And Mr. Garrideb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke.
Oh my. Excuse me.
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? I see we have found another person who might hold the key to solving world hunger. Yeah, no, she's still going. Endless tea. Exactly. They really need to tell us their secret. Mrs. Garrideb. Oh, dearie me. What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court, so please. There's time to drop the pretense now. What is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window? What? I beg your pardon? What are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and the bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. And what if we did? Oh, alright then, yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window. Which can't have been easy since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering. Even though your house was on fire? Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise. Of course, I should have realized. That's a significant step forward. You've managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must add that to Mrs. Garrideb's formal statement. Well, now, here we are.
Objection. Hold it.
Hmm? It will not permit a whimsical attack again. I think. Oh, the connection wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess I can press this because it's new. At the point the victim was attacked on Briar Road, we know there was a small house fire in the Garrett household on the opposite side of the street. Well, yes, it certainly seems that way. And on account of the smoke, I imagine they would have had the windows open in spite of cold. We also know Mrs. Garrett was throwing flaming books at her husband. Her husband, who was backed into the corner by the window due to his wife's frenzied attack. Yes, that's right. So there's definitely a chance that one of the books could have flown past the man and out the window. Only what? Only I can't really see how it could have gone all the way over to the other side of the road, that's all. Huh? So I don't really see how I can change my decision, really. Oh, I see. It wasn't enough? What is it going to take to persuade these people? I guess press this as well because it's changed. The fourth book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride, the same title, in fact, as the book Mr. Garrett told us he had been reading. Huh? Well, I really couldn't say. On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride he had been reading? I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on. So I hurled it straight at him, and now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the onset? Because I couldn't, you little insolent man. I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on, as you well know. I really don't. I barely noticed I was throwing the book, much less the title of it.
Excuse me.
What is up, my guy? What is it, juror number 5? You know something. I've remembered what it was. That memory I'd blocked out. I was listening to what this granny was saying, and it brought it all back. All flooding back. Who are you calling granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Miss Garrett, or the maid, I'll have you know. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time. It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home after work, I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I had just earned that day and I nearly died. There was a hole, every last penny dropped out. Oh dear, what a disaster. You haven't heard the half of it, boy. Oh? The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight, I've lost the day's wages, love. Next thing I know, the blade was whistling past my ears, stuck in the wall next to me, it did. About an inch deep. Huh? No words, just terror. I could smell it then, you know, that god-awful stench of the Thames. The Thames. I was sure I was going to end up face down into muddy banks at that night. I can tell you. Now, that's a real disaster, isn't it?
I'll never use the word lightly again. Bork, bork.
Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rapes, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it. Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. I mean, you did literally chuck me across a room multiple times just because I was defending myself. No, I wasn't thinking that. Throwing household objects at people, well, it's so uncivilized. At least attack with honor using a bow or the like. What? Attack? Who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think. Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later if I dare.
Hold it!
Your wife really threw a kitchen knife at you? That's right. She's chopping the meat with it. It had a tidy edge on it, believe me. Still, 'tis all memories, isn't it? I started with that smile she threw me when we were courting. And since then, the list of things she's thrown at me has grown along with our relationship. There was a cup, then a glass, then a pot, a kettle, a chair, a wardrobe, a cooker, a bathtub. A frickin'... Your wife must be even beefier than you. And things came to a head last week when she threw me right into the Thames. Still, she's not so bad when she's calmed down. She's a little sweetheart, really. I am so happy for you. If you want to know what I think this whole idea of ladies first that we're so obsessed with in this country, I thought it was made up by some clever lads who had been tossed into the Thames a few too many times by their wives. That's a very interesting theory. What a terrible thought. On the face of it, this juror's statement sounds just like a really extreme anecdote. But I think it might turn out to be an extremely powerful weapon. Weapon I might be able to use the jurors to accept an alternative explanation here. Yeah. So this.
Objection!
Those two statements have a deeply significant connection. Yay! Different dialogue.
Good grief, you mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once.
Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be such a novel alternative? Oh my, whatever do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back. What are you talking about? We've demonstrated that the fourth book, The Lion's Pride, was found at the scene of the crime. Originated in Mr. Garrideb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garrideb household to the street below. Eh, what's that now? After all, Mrs. Garrideb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating, you little beanpole? I'm beginning to think that ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she's had a feeling this might be what happened. Now you listen here, English scholar. As foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house, but what? What was it? I'm really taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defendant's the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garadeb household to the scene of the crime was the only other piece of evidence I have. That I'm a lawyer. Gotta love Ryu's little pace animation. Yeah, it's good. Probably this. Did you hear that, everyone? Did you hear that belligerent outburst? Oh my, how horrifying. What? I just wanted to let you know, guys, I'm a lawyer. I thought that was important. I think it's very clear now. You're the one grasping at the first thing that comes to hand here, young man. Mr. Naruhodo, be careful. It's dangerous to give indiscriminate answers like that. Oh, fine. I guess I'll give the only other solid piece of evidence we have. Jeez. After all I'm suggesting here is a long shot, to put it mildly. But I'm certain that, at the very least, this warrants further investigation. The knife.
Take that!
Juror number 4, Miss Garadeb. What? What now? I must apologize in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Ah.
Good lord, Counsel, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged into the victim's back, man.
My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked and Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb were in the throes of an argument, Miss Garadeb was hurling anything she could at her husband who'd been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear smoke and through which a book sailed and landed at the crime scene. You can't seriously believe that the book was found in the victim's grasp. Are you saying that it flew out of the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand? Oh, even my missus hasn't aimed like that. Yes, I admit there are many details we don't understand, but that's the point. That's precisely why. We must not allow this trial to end. Not right now. Oh my. Mrs. Garadeb, your answer please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Oh. Good. She went down like a sack of potatoes.
My lord.
I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman of my word, after all. Thank you, madam.
Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but
I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions. Mr. Foreman? I'd have to agree. Not that I think the granny did it mind. Yeah, you know, why not? I'm not quite happy at this moment either. All together now, lads and gents, ladies and gents. Boom, 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 boom. We did it! Again! Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. All for it once, yay!
So, as a result of the defense's summation examination... Oops. A number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors called guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided, and this trial will continue. Now then, Lord Van Zykes, how does the prosecution wish to proceed?
This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. Like a corked wine, the first few sips are bitter enough.
What I wish is to light this entire courtroom on fire by throwing wine. But what follows is so repugnant, it's good for nothing save the gutter.
If I may, Lord Van Zykes, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened.
Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke, to which I barely know how to respond, but let me start by insisting that you must all familiarize yourselves better with the relative positions of the places being discussed. What do you mean? What's his angle this time? It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garrett house runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Garrett's house to the scene is some, 15 yards. Let me see, 15 yards, that's around 14 meters. 14 meters? Oh, that's a little farther than I had imagined. But aren't they like... I don't know, you have the ground floor, then you have the first floor, then you have the second floor. So aren't they like 30 meters high to begin with? That's not that unbelievable. Or no, sorry. 3, so 10 meters up. So they're like almost as high up as if it just like kind of got tossed, then it probably wouldn't take too hard to get it at least 2/3 of the way across. And if it were like it probably could have. And as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly have noted as portentous significance, the fourth book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smoldering book wantonly hurled by the lady of the house traveled some 15 yards. Okay, so the book did not hit her. The book simply landed on the ground next to her, and she went over and picked the book up, being like, who the heck threw this? And then got stabbed in the back and hit the ground and then hit her head on the way down. It's still pretty close to my original. But, like, to land on the opposite side of the road, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? No. Did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory, plunge into the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. There's nothing I can say to that. There is, you're just not thinking. That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. Miss Susato? Serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? Maybe let's pick our battles here. My lord, might I be allowed to speak?
As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense, yes. Go ahead.
The prosecution may consider the idea fantasy, but what the defendant has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leading. As such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, Juror number 4, Miss Joan Garredeb, must be called to testify and submit to cross-examination.
Saints alive! A cross-examination of a juror? Order, order, order! Well, this is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Yeet. And unnecessary.
Lord Van Zykes?
There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony may further the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must have flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume they would be able to testify accordingly.
What say you, witnesses?
Yes, sir. Constable Roy Beat reporting for duty, sir. Well, good morning, sir. Sorry for dozing until now, sir. I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir. Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies. Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Rolly, you're my hero. You make me swoon. The gallery has a splash zone when Van Zykes is prosecuting. It must do. Very well, I hereby reject the defendant's request. Oh? And order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events. Oh, you're in love. Their love is about as cheesy and overflowing as Patricia's hair looks. Yes, sir. Constable Beats report. The case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garradeb. Believe me, a London bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garradeb house are top-hinged casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eyes off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Why are you chewing your brain bucket strap? Well, this is quite startling. Top-hinged casement windows. That detail was certainly not in the police report, Constable. Yes, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy. You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable. No, sir. Sorry, but what exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course, sorry. I found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Garradeb's room. Alright, I'll try. So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the houses. But it's a top-hinged casement window. It swings along the upper edge, you see. I'm glad you've rectified your ignorance. A casement window is a most prominent feature. It's a stay metal bar, which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. Prevents its opening? This is new to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or knife had been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below. No. You see the problem then. Good, your education in Windows is complete. There was never a possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. Then how did it get there? Unless the window pane had been shattered, something we've discounted already. Thank you for the hydrate, Rhea. It can't be! Did you see that, Rolly? The young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Oh yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw how he crumbled before me. Oh, Rolly, you're so strong. Sucking on a chin strap. Why is it in his mouth? How is this happening? Haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed?
Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again, the court awaits your cross-examination.
My lord. Oh, good. Another desperate situation. Constable Beats report. Case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word. Yeah, sure, I guess. How can you say that for certain? A very good question, sir. The answer is this. It has notable founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty. Excuse me. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? I can't say I remember. Are you daft, Ryunosuke? He indeed did. Control the streets of London town, and uphold the peace of the common man. That is what the job is about. And that is why I can stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you a Bobby's good for his word, while rubbing my tired eyes admittedly. Sir! Oh, Rolly, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, brother. No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett? Ah, I see, sir. You should have said that so earlier, sir. Yes, well, so, could you answer the question? That was a waste of time, then. Absolutely, sir. I will answer it to the fullest of my ability, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garredeb's domestic dispute can't relate to this case. But before I get into that, sir, just one thing. Yeah? I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some of the tales of London Bobbies and how we uphold our guiding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. So to that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your For your what? Pursual. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears. Thank you. I'll try. The curse of being a protag in a typical Ace Attorney game is that sometimes you have to be stupid so the game can walk the player to the answer. Yeah. Like, no doubt in Phoenix Wright, in any of the Phoenix Wright ones, the answer was so stupid that I really just did not see it. When I was watching it, someone play through it, I was just like, oh. How do you get from there to there? But I imagine that playing it is slightly different than just like listening to it and being like, what the heck is going on? So I don't know if it is typically the case or not, but it's been added to the court record. Alright, before we go into that, look at this. Principles of policing. Item 1. Every policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beat. I appreciate that Ryu at least has some moments where he's with or ahead of the player, like Edgeworth in his games. Item 2. A patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. Metropolitan Police Regulations. Item 1. Any crimes fall under jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. Item 2. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Okay.
Hold it!
By which you mean they don't open fully, is that correct? Yes, sir. They're just there to allow a bit of air through the house. You see, so they are restricted on how... I need to stop advancing when I haven't read it. Restricted as to how much they open. And therefore, anything thrown out the window from inside the room would simply strike the panel and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is the location where the objects would have fallen. Yes, directly opposite the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road. Would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this top-hinged casement thing before? Well, I have another question for you, Constable. And what would that be, sir? How do you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house is furnished with? Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday. Yeah, what's up, girl? Tell me what's on your mind. Do you have something to add, Mrs. Beat? Sorry. You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that? Oh, I was just remembering. That's all. We really were so lucky. Lucky? What do you mean? Well, of course, I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rolly's beat. It was so close, you see. Oh, I hadn't realized. Oh yes, that's Street of Briar Road. That's the boundary between Rolly's beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love? Constable Beat. Huh? Oh, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out the interviewing and the occupants of the Garrideb house yesterday. The house is on my beat, you see, sir. That really was cutting it close then. Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garrideb household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it as well? That the pavement next to it is as well? Outside the Garrideb's house? Yes, ma'am. The pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that. Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would have never been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby, after all.
Extraordinary people are Bobbies. Tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners.
Do you know what I think? I think it would be the good Lord's way of rewarding my Rolly for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling?
That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be.
I think perhaps we should make sure we have the information officially on record. Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately. Case files information has been updated in the court record. Now it is my turn, I think. How is it updated? Pavement of Briar Road, east side. Border of which runs down the middle of Briar Road. Okay. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out the window, we would have seen it. But according to my notes, here the sun had gone down and it was already dark. Oh, but Rolly and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky, looking for our lucky star. Sorry? The star that will guide us to eternal happiness. Can't it guide you to answer the question? If a flaming book had cut across the sky in front of us, it would have lit up like a shooting star. And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rolly be an inspector, I would have said. 3 times at least. Of course, what with the smog and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars. In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you? Yes, sir. That is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir. It certainly seems like they're telling the truth. And then we saw a poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her. I did leave the scene to go fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. Yes, you said you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer, is that right? That's right, yes. If it had been on Rolly's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat. So Rolly told me the way, only I sort of got a little lost on the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, please. So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, my Rolly was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty. I didn't take my eyes off the crime scene for a moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Nothing to report? That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time, never looked away for a second. No one else has approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honor, sir. Are they nutcrackers? I think so. Must be. Really? That seems a little strange. Beg your pardon, sir? Strange, sir? Seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of London's Pride was originally in the Garrideb house, so the question remains, how did it find its way to the hand of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? Aha! Could it be a different copy, sir? One that just happened to be burnt as well? Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping the book like that in her hand? As we can see from the photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, the book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived on the scene. Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how the knife ended up in her back and how the book ended up in her hand, there must be some connection, common thread between them. What if she found the book, bent over, the knife fell down out of the window, straight down, she crossed the street, and then realized, oh, I can't go on any further, and then just over there instead. Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer. Oh, yes, of course. What is it? You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell. What? I wasn't really. I mean, what is she doing? Please, just because I'm a woman doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. She's pulling a sexist card on us? Come on. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am. I really don't ever remember suggesting that I doubted you. No excuses, I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you?
Yes, Miss Beat. I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one.
That was a very loud mutter.
I heard that. That Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Rolly won't.
Duly noticed, Mrs. Beat. Please, I humbly ask you to continue. What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder?
I know what I saw. I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes.
Hold it!
Okay.
Mrs. Beat, nobody is questioning what you've told us. I saw it, I did. That evening I saw it clearly. The little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved back, slinking away from the scene. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky.
All very clear. You also mentioned something about having poor sense of direction.
Oh yes, well, it's a little embarrassing really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I've made my arrangements to meet Rory. He gets ever so cross.
What's up? Constable Beat, is there a problem? Did y'all actually work? Well, no, because the scene of the crime was on the other side. Did the crime actually happen directly under Mr. Garadeb's window, like where it was, and he just decided, I don't want to deal with this. I'm just gonna move it across the street because that's not my beat.
No, sir, no problem, sir.
Is your wife's remark now just bring something to mind, perhaps?
Oh, well, in a way, sir, yes, sir. I was just remembering the same thing happened that evening is all.
You mean Miss Beat lost her way on the night of the incident?
Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. Thought she'd be back in 10 minutes. But my darling was gone a good 15. Hey, Rolly, you're such a tease. But the reason I was gone so long was because of the bouquet, silly.
Bouquet? Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about?
Oh, it was a present from our wedding anniversary. Rolly's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings, and pennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds.
Yes, how romantic.
I'd forgotten all about it until just now. Had you, my darling? Yes. That was just between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise.
Oh. Really? Oh. What was that about? Constable Beat looked very obviously troubled during that exchange.
I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo, but I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Miss Beat about the bouquet.
Mrs. Beat, did this bouquet you mentioned, I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please.
Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to. What happened was I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while.
I didn't take my eyes off the crime scene for one moment, sir.
Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
So sorry, Mr. Naruhodo. I had no right to speak out. What do you mean?
I requested a cross-examination of Miss Garadeb without consulting you. Even the judge did deny me.
Oh, I see. Well, I agree with you. We do need testimony from Miss Garadeb. If we're ever going to get the truth of this matter.
Do you really think so?
Well, think about it. No matter how far it is across the road or how that window opens, Miss Garadeb's book found its way into the scene of the crime somehow, didn't it?
You're right.
And then there was Mrs. Garadeb's reaction to me showing her the knife. The woman's hiding something. I'm sure of it.
Did she stab her, thinking that that was the person that he was having an affair with or something? We need to use this cross-examination to uncover more clues. We'll get to the bottom of this one way or another, I swear. Yes. This case has nothing to do with... Excuse me.
Hold it!
Did I press this? You mean you dropped your bouquet at the scene of crime? Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was the woman with the knife in her back, I was so shocked I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice it first. And then you went to the police box to report the policeman whose beat it was on? Yes, and I came back to the scene altogether. The scene together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again, but the funny thing it was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. He moved the body. He 100% moved the body. In case you need reminding, Miss Beat, the victim is not deceased. I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road. Your husband, presumably? That's right, silly me. I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although I'm going to blame the bouquet this time. I can't think how it got there, I really can't. So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Briar Road to the opposite.
Curious indeed.
Isn't it? But the worst of it is I forgot to pick up the bouquet again when we left the scene. A beautiful rose Rolly bought me with the change. And from the gutter he spent so long collecting. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry solitary rose? Oh, yes, that's it. That's the bouquet Rolly bought me for our anniversary, with old bits of change he found in the gutter.
Maybe just call it a rose? Tell us, Lord Van Zyges, where did you come by that flower?
According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garrett house.
Van Zyges, stop being mean. They're just poor. Let them...
Just let them this? Yeah. Let them have this. It's one thing. Why you gotta be such a...
Every party needs a pooper. That's why they invited you. Party pooper.
That's what Van Zyges is. He is a party pooper. It was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garrett house.
In front of the Garrett house?
Although it wasn't noticed until morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case since he was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare. Van Zyges, professional killjoy. He is deceased. His joy is deceased like the dead he emulates. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Could I have it back now, please?
No, I think for good measure this rose should be added to the court record as evidence.
Oh. Anniversary bouquet has been entered in the court record. See, even the court lets them have this. But it's a symbol of our love. It's very stylish paper. The flower is wrapped in, isn't it? Isn't it just like the news for the day? Yeah. It's just old newspaper, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, I suppose it's because I'm not used to seeing English print that it looks so exotic to me. I see. Is something wrong? No, I was just thinking that if you wrapped a stone-baked sweet potato in English newspaper, it might look the same... look like some sort of fancy cake. Susato-san, you do love your cakes. An English rose is such a beautiful flower. This is a rose, is it? I've never seen one before. You're not taking interest in flowers, Mr. Naruhodo? I wouldn't say that exactly, but I do know 3 types at least. Gosh, 3? Yes, plum blossom, peach blossom, and cherry blossom. Perhaps you should consider branching out, learning some that aren't fruit tree based, for example. Oh, it's the same thing. Alright, I guess that's all there is to it. I want it back after the trial, you hear me? I want it back.
Good grief. Rest assured that I shall do my very best not to forget Mrs. Beat.
Hold it!
Nothing to report. Yes. The whole idea of an invisible attacker has been troubling me all along, but I believe I'm starting to get a picture of what really happened here. Fourth book had no business being at the scene of the crime. Scene of the crime made me sure that Miscarideb was hiding something from us, but it's becoming increasingly clear that someone else has been hiding something from us as well. I think I may already be armed with everything I need to strike a decisive blow here. This time, it's going to expose the whole truth about this mysterious affair. Okay. It's getting kind of close to the time that I need to go. And I'm getting kind of tired. So I think what I'm gonna do, this seems like a good-ish place to leave off. Let it stew for a bit. And I will come back to this, I think, Friday, because tomorrow and Wednesday and potentially Thursday are all going to be Resident Evil 8. But thank you all for hanging out. Oh, Dosmer Green, thank you for the follow. I really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed your stay here. See you on Friday. Anyone who's lurking, thank you for lurking. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Alrighty. Bye-bye. Have a good week. You too, Gossamer.